Hey everybody, welcome to Lord of the Reads. In today's video, we're going to be going over my first impressions of my February TBR. I did this in January, and I really enjoyed it because I like giving first impressions, where I like explaining the first impressions of the beginning of the books, because I like seeing how my thoughts evolve throughout a book. So, I like, cataloging my first thoughts, and then I can compare them when I finish the book. And there will be one book that I will not do. I did this last month. I did not do my nonfiction because my first impressions, I really want to be about the story. First impressions of the story, and I can't do that with the nonfiction. So I will not be doing my nonfiction pick, which was Relentless by Tim S. Grover. So this will not be included, but the other 5 books are all fiction, so I will be doing those. And we can go ahead and start with the first one, which was The Girl Who Speaks Bear by Sophie Anderson. I'm going to be reading this, or Pullathon is in the process at the moment. So this is one of the books that I will be reading for a Pullathon, and I really wanted to read it just because it was by Sophie Anderson. I'd heard so many good things about her writing in general, so I definitely wanted to try it out to see what I thought. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. It's about a girl who is bigger than all the other kids. She towers over them and towers over most of the adults in the village too. And from what I understand, when she was 2 years old, I think, she was found in front of a bear cave and taken to live with this woman in the village. She was found by this woman, and she took the young girl to live with her. And so far, it's actually really interesting. One thing that's really interesting is there's a very strong friendship bond. So she doesn't really fit in with the other kids because she's bigger than all of them. And she has this one friend, and that's was actually what the majority of the first chapter was about, was the friendship, which was something that was really interesting. Also, this has beautiful writing. It's super descriptive. There was one part. Her hands are smooth but tough like new bark. Her hair is dark like the shadows between pines, and she smells sweet like lime blossoms. You can't beat that kind of writing. It's amazing. All throughout the first chapter. This book's also super mysterious because they don't really explain a lot about what happened, why she was in front of the bear cave, and it starts off when she was 12, so there's a big gap. And because of that, it's super mysterious as to what happened and how all of that's going to play out throughout the rest of the story. So far I'm really enjoying this one, and I can't wait to finish it. The next book is The House with Chicken Legs, also by Sophie Anderson. This was the Sophie Anderson book that I was most excited to get through. I really wanted to read this one, just even based on the cover. Actually, these covers, both of these, if I'm not mistaken, these were actually made, sculpted, and then taken a picture of. And these are, super intricate, too. So, that's really cool. But this is the one that I was really excited to get to, by Sophie Anderson. There were 3 main books of hers that I wanted to get to. House with Chicken Legs, The Girl Who Speaks Bear, and there was another one that I can't remember the name of. But this was the one that I was really excited to get to. It's about a 12-year-old girl who lives in this house with an old woman, and the old woman is a guardian. So she is meant to help the dead get to the world of the dead. She's the keeper of the gate that helps them go through. And this young girl is supposed to inherit that job from the old woman. And she's always dreamed of being with the living people but she can't because she's supposed to take over being the guardian. And their house that they live in has chicken legs, so it walks around to different places where they can gather the souls of dead people to take them to the world of the dead. And I was super excited because this one, the synopsis alone, just sounds super interesting. I was definitely not expecting what happened because, well, I was just expecting a house that walked around on chicken legs. But I didn't know that any of that was in the synopsis about them supposed to be guiding the dead until I started reading. And that's actually a really cool, that's a really cool, plot and idea. So definitely wasn't expecting that, and I'm really excited that they put that in there, because that's definitely something that I would love to read about. And then there's very strong family aspect, almost. I don't know what the relation is, or if there is a relation between the old woman and the girl. But they seem to be, close like family. And then they actually do talk about the girl's parents and throughout the first chapter, and that's a heavy emphasis of the first chapter. So that's definitely a really interesting thing that I liked having that little bit of history of the girl's parents to kind of flesh out some of the story a little bit. So that's definitely something interesting that I was really happy was included, so that it could flesh out the story a little bit. And then there was some major want and hope, because the girl doesn't want this job. She wants to be with the living. So there's this big part, most of the first chapter is about her saying how, as she's helping attend to the dead, saying that she really would like to be with the living, and almost forgetting her duty because of that want to be with the living. And then it also talks about in the first chapter, it didn't go into deeply, but she mentioned it. One of the things was whether her destiny was something that was fixed or something that she could change, which is something that I always enjoy reading about in stories, whether a character's destiny can be changed or whether it's set to be a certain way and they can't change it even if they wanted to. So definitely probably the book on my February TBR that I'm most excited to read, and definitely the one that I'm most enjoying. It's super interesting, and Sophie Anderson's writing is amazing, so definitely can't wait to finish this one. The next book is The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. This is one of the books that I have to read for my American Literature course, so that I had to get to this one in February. I've seen the movie, and I think that I've read the book before, but I can't be sure. The book is about this old man, and he's a fisherman, and he hasn't caught anything for 87 days? 85 days. I think 85 days, maybe 84. But he hasn't caught anything for a very long time, and there's this boy that used to go out fishing with him, but his father made him stop because he wanted him to be on a ship that actually caught fish, so he wouldn't be able to go with the old man anymore. And I was actually really enjoying this. It's really, it's a fast-paced book, and it helps that the print is large. This is not split up into chapters, so I just read, the first 10 or so pages. So that, I had to figure out how I was going to do that. But, based on the first 10 pages, it's actually really good. One thing that immediately stuck out is, everyone's criticizing the old man because he can't catch anything. And he's, stays really calm and doesn't get upset when people are criticizing him and making fun of him and stuff. He's super, and he's also super optimistic through everything. He keeps saying, well, I'll catch something tomorrow, and he never complains, never talks about how all these bad things are happening to him, which is really interesting. He's a super strong character that doesn't really care what other people think, and isn't gonna complain about the bad things that are happening to him. Another thing that was super interesting was the relationship between the old man and the boy. So they almost take care of each other. Like he's kind of a mentor to him, and the young boy also takes care of him because he's old and has trouble with some things, doing things. So he like takes care of him, but they kind of take care of each other throughout the story, which is super interesting. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. It's like super fast paced, so it won't take me long to finish it. And I know that I enjoy the story. Can't remember if I've read the books though, so definitely can't wait to finish this one and see what my thoughts of the whole book are. The next book on this list is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This one, I have to say, this one's slower than all the other books, and so far I am enjoying it. Like, it's a different type of book than all the other books on my list. All the other ones are like action or fantasy or something like that. This is a contemporary set in the 1920s. Contemporary set in the 1920s. And this, from what I understand, it's about Jay Gatsby, and he falls in love with, still can't remember the name, Daisy Buchanan, and they like having lavish parties. Besides that, I have no clue what the plot is, but I have to read it for my American literature, so I had to fit this one on here. And one thing that was super interesting in the first chapter was the difference in social class. Like, I think that's going to be a big aspect of the rest of the story, is when the different social classes start intermingling. So I don't read a lot about that, so that's going to be interesting. They also talked about the main character's family history, which is I love when they do that in books, because it helps you flesh out the character, knowing how he was raised and who his parents were and how he was brought up, which helps you kind of flesh out his character. So that was really interesting. It has beautiful writing, super descriptive. It's poetic, yet not flowery, and it's super simple to read. So, like, the writing is wonderfully beautiful. It is slower paced though, so it's gonna take me longer to get through, even though, I mean, it is short, so it shouldn't take too long, but it is slower paced than everything else. It'll take a little longer than everything else, but so far it's interesting. It's not like anything that I have read or would actually pick up on my own. Well, no, I probably actually would have picked this up, but like, I don't pick up a lot of contemporary, except for contemporary romances. But I am excited to get to this one, because I've heard that it's really good, and I really want to know what happens in the story, because I don't know too much. So definitely excited to get to this one, and I'm hoping that I enjoy the rest of the story. The last book on my February TBR was Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This one is about a man, Victor Frankenstein, who creates a monster. I read this book before. I love this book. It's one of my favorites. So I fit this into Pullathon, and I was super excited about that. So I was really excited to be able to fit this one in. And the first chapter is actually more history than anything else. History of the characters. So, like, most of it was just his family and his parents, and about his adopted sister. So there wasn't actually very much. He's still a boy in the first chapter, because they're just giving a little bit of history. And the history is actually, like, I love when they do that in books, because it gives me, like, especially if they include, like, the main character as a child, and you get to see how he was as a child, and or you get to compare when he grew up to when he was a child. That's really interesting. And the family, it's really it's hard to explain because you don't get a lot of the story in like the first, I think it's the first few chapters, and it's a mostly family history. And the first chapter was mostly about how the parents got his adopted sister, and about how Victor Frankenstein as a child wanted to protect her, which was really, it was really fun to read about. And then the love that the parents felt for each other and the child and all that was super interesting as it was, you know, played out in the first chapter. And how Victor Frankenstein immediately loved his adopted sister, also super fun and cute to read about. So, you know, the first chapter is like really cute and stuff, so we'll see how it goes through the rest of the story when it starts getting darker. So but this is one of my favorite books, so I know I'm going to enjoy this one. I've read it, I don't even know how many times at this point, but definitely excited to get through this one again because it's one of my favorites. So this one I'm enjoying so far. It's a success. So that was my first impressions of my February TBR. Those were all my thoughts that I had as I was reading through the first chapter, so I hope you enjoyed. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!